She stood at the front of the conference room, heels clicking like gunshots against the polished floor, her expression smooth and satisfied, like someone who believed she had already won. The glass panels threw long lines of golden sunlight across the table where the department had gathered, directors, team leads, the vice president of strategy. Their arms were crossed, expressions unreadable, their attention fixed on her. I leaned back in my chair, silent, settled near the end of the long table. My fingers were steepled beneath my chin. I was not anxious. I was waiting, because I knew what was coming. She clicked the remote. Nothing. Clicked again. Still nothing. A flicker of confusion passed over her face, breaking through the carefully arranged mask. She laughed nervously. Apologies, everyone. Just a small glitch. Bright morning. Maybe the screen is just acting up. But the screen behind her stayed gray. Empty. Like the inside of her head when she tried to recall the data I had buried in those slides. Before I continue my story, let me know where you are watching from in the comments and hit that like and subscribe button. I am Lena. I am 31 years old. I work in product operations at a logistics tech firm. And 3 days ago, I caught my coworker trying to pass off 4 months of my work as her own. Her name is Taryn. She and I had started in the same year. Same level. We were even on the same team for a while. I never disliked her, not really. She was sharp in meetings and good at playing the politics of our office. But she had a way of being too casual with credit, too quick to chime in with a "we did this" when it had really been someone else pulling the weight. This time, the someone else had been me. The project had started in the background, an internal tool to optimize our vendor routing decisions using machine learning. It was just an idea back then, something I was curious about, something I stayed late to explore because it excited me. There was no mandate, no leadership directive, just me, a whiteboard, and way too much caffeine. The first model failed miserably. The second had promise. I kept tweaking, testing, reworking. Weekends disappeared. I skipped more than a few family dinners. But I had something by month 3. A full working prototype, early tests showing significant savings. I looped in a few senior analysts and even got approval to pitch it in the quarterly innovation review. That was when Taryn found out. I was in the hallway near the break room. She was inside with our manager, leaning casually against the counter, sipping from one of those obnoxious glass tumblers she always carried around like a fashion statement. "I've been working on this optimization project for a while now," she said, like she was discussing the weather. "Thinking it might be good timing to present it this quarter, especially with the new cost initiatives." I stood in the hallway, unseen. I should have walked in, confronted her, but instead I stood there, still listening. I did not say a word. I just walked away. And I started planning. That was 3 days ago. Now, in front of the entire leadership team, she was standing under the spotlight she had clawed her way into, except she had nothing to show. She tried to talk through the framework. I recognized the words. They were mine. Little fragments from our late-night calls, lines from my notes, ideas she had lifted and memorized without understanding. She said, "We trained the model on 2 quarters of vendor performance and ran simulations across all major regions." Someone interrupted. "Do you have the performance charts for that? The visual trends?" She froze. Blinked. They were in the file. Maybe the upload did not complete. Silence. The vice president's chair creaked as he leaned back. Still saying nothing. Watching. That was my cue. I straightened in my chair, waited half a breath, then spoke. "Come, even. I have them if you would like me to pull them up." Taryn's head snapped in my direction. She looked at me like I had just materialized from nowhere. The room shifted. Heads turned. The director of product looked relieved. "Please," the vice president said. "Go ahead." I stood, walked to the front, inserted my drive, and brought the screen to life. The charts appeared instantly, clean, detailed, annotated. "This is the full training set," I said. "Performance data from the last 2 quarters, categorized by vendor, region, and service level." No one interrupted me. No one needed to. I walked them through the entire project, the idea, the design, the testing process, the results, the recommendation. I spoke clearly, confidently, never once glancing at Taryn. I did not need to. Her silence behind me said enough. When I finished, the room was quiet for a long moment. Then the vice president nodded. "Thank you, Lena. Excellent work." That was all. Simple. But in our office, that was everything. Taryn left before the end of the meeting. Said nothing. Took her tumbler and vanished. The fallout came quickly. Our manager called me in the next morning. He apologized, awkwardly. Told me leadership was reevaluating how team leads were selected going forward. A week later, I got the promotion. Quietly. No ceremony. Just a new title in my email signature and a slightly nicer chair. Taryn left the company the following month. I found a note folded inside my locker one morning. "I am sorry," it read. No signature. I kept it, not as a trophy, just as a reminder of what happens when you underestimate the quiet one. She was gone. Just like that. Her desk cleared out on a Thursday morning, her nameplate removed by noon. No farewell email. No whispered goodbyes in the hallway. Just silence. I would be lying if I said it gave me satisfaction. It gave me something more complicated than that. I am not someone who needs applause. I do not crave credit for every task. But when you spend months building something, pouring your thoughts, time, and energy into a vision that nobody asked for but everybody suddenly wants, it is not just a matter of pride. It is identity. Integrity. I knew what I had done. And more importantly, now they did too. That week after Taryn left, people were different with me. The meetings changed. Managers who used to skim over my ideas now asked follow-up questions. Team leads invited me to their strategy huddles. Even the vice president, who once only nodded in the halls, stopped to ask how I was settling into the new role. But not all attention is flattering. Some colleagues were subtle. A comment here, a look there. "Guess it pays to keep backup copies of everything," one of them said near the printer, not looking at me, but making sure I heard. Another said, "Management really fell for that story, huh?" Story. That word settled under my skin like a splinter. They had seen what happened in that meeting. They had heard her stumble, seen her bluff fall apart. But to them, this was not evidence. It was entertainment. Office politics. A story. I stayed quiet. Not because I was afraid, but because I knew that in places like ours, survival had more to do with consistency than noise. Let them whisper. Let them think what they wanted. Because I had more to prove. The promotion came with a new project, something bigger, client-facing, high stakes. I was assigned to lead the pilot development for a new vendor integration platform. The kind of thing that could make or break our reputation with 3 of our biggest logistics partners. My team was handpicked. They gave me 4 engineers, 2 analysts, and a timeline that was ambitious even by our standards. One of the analysts was new. Her name was Ava. Sharp, curious, polite. She had only joined 2 weeks prior. I noticed right away that she was a listener, not a talker. That mattered to me. We got to work. I was deliberate in how I led. I documented everything, shared access logs, kept detailed meeting summaries. I delegated clearly. No ambiguity, no room for "I thought we agreed" later on. The work was intense. Late nights, early stand-ups, endless back and forth with vendors who seemed to exist in different time zones every day. But it moved forward. By week 4, we had a functioning framework. By week 6, we were testing live scenarios. The only thing that worried me was the new stakeholder assigned halfway through, Marcus, from the finance side. He had a reputation. Smart, but territorial. He had led a failed rollout 6 months ago and was only recently brought back into higher-level projects. People said he was watching for an opportunity to prove he still had teeth. I noticed the small things first. He would take notes during meetings and then bring up concerns with leadership privately. Not outright criticism, just nudges. "We may want to revisit Lena's budget assumptions," or "I think the tech timeline could benefit from a second look." None of it reached me directly at first. But then Ava mentioned it one afternoon. "He's been asking me about your forecasting model," she said, careful with her words. "Wanted a copy of the simulation you ran last week." I frowned. "Did you send it?"
No.
I told him to ask you.
Good.
But the fact that he had gone to her at all meant something. I checked our shared folders. Sure enough, there had been a download attempt on the restricted file, blocked, because I had locked it. Marcus never brought it up. Instead, he invited me to a cross-functional review meeting with department heads. He framed it as a collaborative check-in, said he wanted to align finance with operations. I agreed. But I knew what he was preparing for. I had seen it before, someone attempting to slide into the spotlight just as the work neared completion. That meeting was set for the following Friday. And I began preparing the same way I always do when betrayal feels close. By going quiet, by watching, by planning. The week leading up to the meeting, I updated every file, checked every access log, and backed up every single slide I had built for the presentation. Then I created a decoy folder. Inside were dummy versions of my reports, slightly flawed models, outdated projections, unfinished slides with subtle errors and logic. I placed it under a public directory that looked like an internal prep folder. Not locked. Not labeled clearly. Just enough to tempt someone who thought they were being clever. By Wednesday evening, someone had accessed the decoy folder. 3 files downloaded. 1 edited, then re-uploaded with new timestamps. Thursday morning, Marcus emailed me. Hey Lena, just saw your updated deck. Looks great. I made a few minor tweaks, hope that is alright. Looking forward to presenting it tomorrow. Presenting it. Not reviewing it. Not supporting it. Presenting. I did not reply. Friday arrived. The conference room was full.
Projector on.
Coffee carts restocked.
Senior leadership filed in slowly.
Some curious. Some expectant. 1 or 2 with eyes that said they already knew this was going to be a show. Marcus stood at the front with his usual confidence, sleeves rolled up, tie loosened just enough to say relatable. He launched into a polished opening about cross-department collaboration and cost visibility. Then he pulled up the deck. His version. The decoy. It started strong. Slide 1 was fine. Slide 2, decent. By slide 4, the inconsistencies began to show. The forecasting model was off. The margin assumptions clashed with current pricing data. One of the graphs was flipped on its axis. I did not say a word. I let him keep going. By slide 6, people were glancing at each other. Someone frowned. The vice president leaned forward. Marcus paused. Of course, this is still a working draft, he said quickly. I believe Lena can walk us through some of the deeper technical aspects. He looked at me like he expected backup. Support. A lifeline. I stood. Walked to the front. Actually, I said, plugging in my drive, I would prefer to show you the final version. The real deck appeared. Complete. Accurate. Coherent. I walked them through it, calmly, point by point. No drama. Just facts. Hard work. Verified results. When I finished, the room was quiet. Then the vice president turned to Marcus. You said you reviewed this? Marcus looked cornered. Yes, I thought those were the final files. I must have misunderstood. You misunderstood your role, the VP said, voice flat. Next time, ask before you represent someone else's work. That was all. Meeting adjourned. He left first. I did not watch him go. Because I had nothing more to prove. He avoided me after that. No emails. No direct messages. No glances in the hallway. Marcus went completely quiet. And in our office, silence is not neutral. It is either guilt or strategy. I watched him from a distance, but I did not press. I did not need to. That meeting had done its job. The truth had unfolded in front of the entire senior leadership team, not in a dramatic explosion, but in a slow unraveling that left no room for doubt. That is the kind of truth that sticks. 2 days later, an internal memo announced that Marcus was transitioning to a non-client-facing role effective immediately. A sentence that meant exactly what it sounded like. He was being quietly sidelined. And I was assigned full ownership of the vendor integration platform, with direct reporting lines to our VP of strategy. No intermediaries. No filters. Just me and the work. I thought that would be the end of it. But offices have long memories and longer shadows. One evening, as I was packing up to leave, Ava lingered by my desk. She was holding her coat, hesitating. "Can I ask you something?" she said quietly.
Sure.
"Do you think people will always try to take credit for your work if you're good at what you do?" The question caught me off guard. It was too sincere to deflect. I paused. "Not always, but it happens, especially when they think you will not fight back." She nodded, thoughtful. "I just do not want to become like that, competitive in that way." "You do not have to be," I said. "You just have to be aware." Eyes open. Do not assume everyone plays fair, but do not let that make you small either. She nodded again and left. I sat there for a while after she was gone, just listening to the hum of the lights and the distant echo of someone vacuuming near the lobby. Because the truth is that kind of pressure, it changes you. The version of me who joined this company 5 years ago would never have imagined setting traps for coworkers. She believed good work spoke for itself. That integrity was enough. Now I know better. You can still have integrity, but you have to protect it. I thought that lesson had been learned, that I had adjusted, calibrated. But the real test came weeks later, when someone from the executive search firm reached out.
It was a short message.
Polite. "We have been following your recent work on the integration platform. One of our clients is interested in speaking with you regarding a strategic operations leadership role. Let us know if you are open to an exploratory conversation." I stared at the message for a long time. This was not just another recruiter spam. This was a targeted inquiry, referencing specifics. Someone had been watching. Not just my LinkedIn profile. My work. I did not reply right away. Instead, I closed my laptop, took a walk around the block, and let the cold air clear my thoughts. Did I want to leave?
Part of me did.
Not out of anger or bitterness, but because I had seen what happened here when you climb too fast. The air got thinner. The expectations doubled. The room for error vanished. And yet, there was something about building something from the inside. About fixing a broken system instead of fleeing from it. So, I took a different path. I forwarded the message to my VP with a note. "Was contacted by this firm today. Not actively looking, but figured you should know." No threat. No ask. Just visibility. He called me that afternoon. "I appreciate the transparency," he said. I waited. "I have been meaning to talk to you, actually. There is an initiative we are considering, strategic partnerships expansion. Something broader than what you're doing now. Would you be interested?" There it was. The next rung on the ladder. And this time, I was ready. Over the next month, I began transitioning off the integration project and into the early architecture of what would become our partnership's framework: new territories, new vendor classes, new operational structures. It was massive, unwritten, and it was mine to shape. I brought Ava with me. I trusted her. She had seen what happened with Taryn, with Marcus. She understood the rules. And, maybe more importantly, she wanted to play a different kind of game. Together, we started building. Not just the project, but the culture. We documented rigorously. We presented as a team. Credit was shared, clearly and publicly. When someone contributed meaningfully, they were named in the recap. No shadows. No ambiguity. It was slow. Hard. Not everyone liked it. But it worked. 6 months in, our retention rates improved. Our partner feedback scores jumped. Leadership took notice. And for once, people were asking how we had done it, not just what we had done. That is the quiet power of consistency. Not every battle needs to be a confrontation. Sometimes, the best revenge is showing them what right looks like and making it impossible to ignore. One morning, I arrived early to the office and found a printed article clipped to my door. It was an industry write-up about the emerging best practices in strategic partnership models. Our company was named. My name was mentioned. And underlined, in blue pen, was a sentence. Lena's leadership has shifted the culture from reactive to resilient. No signature. But I recognized the handwriting. It was Ava's. I smiled. Not because I had won anything, but because I had helped create something that could not be taken, mimicked, or stolen. It was mine. 3 months into the new role, I stopped second-guessing myself when I walked into meetings. That might sound like a small thing, but it is not. It is a shift. A recalibration in how you carry your own name, how you speak when you are not asking for permission to be in the room. We were gaining ground fast. The partnerships model was working. Vendors that had once been difficult were now responsive. Internal teams had clearer onboarding paths. And for the first time since I joined this company, I felt like I was not just solving problems, I was preventing them. But progress invites scrutiny. It started with a string of meeting reschedules, calendar changes that pushed back key decisions by weeks, budget approvals that suddenly needed rework. Then came a quiet rumor that our department was moving too fast, that the new framework might not be scalable, that it looked good on paper but lacked depth. I traced it back to Aaron. He was a senior strategist from a parallel department, lean, well-spoken, the type who never missed an opportunity to nod thoughtfully during meetings, even when he had nothing to say. He was not a bad person, just the kind who believed in hierarchy more than results. And he had been here longer than me. I had seen the signs before. He would ask for clarification on things that were already clear, raise questions in leadership syncs that could have been asked directly. And every time someone praised our team's progress, he would add something like, "Absolutely, though we do want to make sure we're not overlooking risk exposure." Subtle, but constant. And it worked, at least for a while. I began getting questions from leadership, not criticisms, just check-ins. Requests for additional documentation, context, validation models. All fair, all manageable, but all signs of pressure. So I adapted. We tripled our transparency, shared all documentation, invited more stakeholders into our review sessions. I kept everything airtight, every model, every decision, every assumption backed by clean logic and open access. That was the thing about Aaron. He played shadow games. I brought flashlights. But then came the memo. It was slipped into the weekly executive packet, a single-page summary, authored anonymously by cross-department review contributors. It raised concerns about scalability, vendor compliance, and internal alignment. Most of it was vague, but one section stood out. There are indications that the strategic partnerships team is consolidating authority without adequate input from core operational divisions, creating possible structural silos that may hinder future integration. Translation: we do not like how much control she has. I was not angry. I was ready. I walked into the VP's office the next morning and placed 3 binders on his desk, real binders, heavy with data. "Everything you need to evaluate those claims is in here," I said. "If there's a problem, I want to know it. If there is not, I want this behind us so I can get back to building." He looked at me for a long moment. Then he leaned back, hands folded. "You know what this is, right?" "I do. They think you are moving too fast, making them uncomfortable. I am solving what they left broken. If that is uncomfortable, so be it." He smiled, just slightly. "Leave these with me. I will handle it." 2 days later, Aaron was reassigned to a compliance-focused role with more alignment opportunities. I knew what that meant. He had been moved sideways, an elegant way to say, "You are no longer in the way." And that was it. No drama, no show, just a quiet shift in power. Still, I knew better than to celebrate, because the higher you go, the more fragile the trust becomes. One misstep, and the same people who clapped for your rise will dig your fall. That is why I never stopped documenting. Not because I was paranoid, because I was smart. 2 months later, we launched our first cross-region vendor integration under the new model. The numbers spoke for themselves. Lead times dropped by 12%, compliance errors were down, and customer feedback jumped by double digits. I presented the results during the annual leadership summit. The room was quiet when I finished. Then came the applause. Not polite, not performative, earned. After the summit, the CEO, someone I had only spoken to in passing, stopped me outside the elevators. "You built something strong," she said. I nodded. "Took a few broken pieces to get here." She smiled. "The best systems usually do." I left the building that night knowing something had changed, not just in my career, but in me. I no longer walked like someone who had something to prove. I walked like someone who had proven it. And yet, the world does not always move on your terms. One Friday evening, I got a message I did not expect.
Taryn.
Her name lit up my screen like a flare from a past I had buried. It was short. Just one sentence. Can we talk?
I stared at it for a long time.
Not out of fear. Out of curiosity.
What did she want now?
I read her message 3 times before I responded.
About what?
A minute passed. Then 5. I closed my laptop. I was not going to sit and wait for her words like I used to wait for recognition. That version of me, the one who watched her work get hijacked and kept quiet, was long gone. An hour later, her reply arrived. Closure. And maybe a second chance to say what I should have said then. I agreed to meet her. Not out of some soft need for resolution, but because there are times in life when looking someone in the eye is not about forgiveness. It is about closure on your terms. We met at a quiet cafe near the train station. Neutral ground. She was already there when I arrived, hair tied back, makeup more subdued than I remembered. She looked older. Not in age, just worn down in a way ambition alone cannot explain. She stood when she saw me, but I did not offer a hug. I simply nodded and sat. Thanks for coming, she said. I did not come for you, I replied. I came for myself. She nodded. Accepted it. There was a silence, long, not quite uncomfortable. Then she exhaled slowly. I messed up, she said. I know that. I said nothing. I wanted her to fill the space.
To feel it.
I thought if I got that project under my name, if I impressed the right people, I could finally move forward. But I was standing on work I did not understand. I see that now. And you only see it now because it fell apart, I said calmly. You were fine until the screen went blank. She swallowed hard. You are right. Another pause. I left because I knew I could not fix it, she said. I tried to bury it, move on, get another job. But everywhere I went, I carried it. The way people carry dishonesty, without realizing how visible it becomes. I studied her face. There was no performance in it. No spin. Just someone who had been broken by their own choices. Why now? I asked. Because I saw your name, she said, almost whispering. In an article. Industry Spotlight. And I remembered the version of myself who thought she could get away with stealing from someone like you. It made me feel small and ashamed. I nodded once. That version of me would not have stopped you. The new one would never let you get close enough to try. She managed a faint smile. You were always better than me. I just did not want to admit it. No, I said. I was just braver than you. Another long silence passed, but this one was different, settled. Final. She stood to leave, reached into her bag, and pulled out a folded envelope.
This is for you, she said.
You do not have to read it now.
I did not take it.
You can keep it. Her hand hovered in the air for a moment, then she lowered it and nodded. Okay. She walked away quietly, and I watched her go without emotion. Just clarity. Some people walk into your life to teach you how to speak up. Some walk in to teach you how to fight back. She was both. That night, I stayed late at the office, not working, just walking through the floors, looking at the glow of monitors left on, the rows of empty chairs. I thought about how far I had come, about every night I spent proving something, building something, surviving something. And then I thought about Ava. How she was already becoming the kind of leader I wished I had in my early years. Maybe that was the legacy. Not just winning the battle, but creating a place where fewer battles had to be fought. A few days later, the VP pulled me aside after a leadership huddle. We are restructuring again, he said. New teams. New roles. We need someone to anchor it all. I looked at him. What are you asking? He smiled. Chief Strategy Officer. You would report directly to the CEO. I exhaled once. Slowly. Not from shock, but from the weight of finally reaching a place I had been building toward all along. I will take it, I said. Because I had earned it.
Not with politics.
Not with noise. But with results, resilience, and a refusal to be erased. And as I stood in my new office for the first time, one with a view that overlooked the city, I opened my old laptop and scrolled back to the folder from a year ago. The one labeled Pilot Model, Final. I opened the file, looked at the opening slide, and smiled. It still had my name on it. It always had.